So, okay, now we have to go into, is in Frank's, I get the beyond love idea, what's in Frank's world that we can project into Ion? I brought up the fact that, talk to Gail, there's a psychic aspect of Frank they didn't discuss publicly. She does say just after he died that he would invent things or say things, and then they would show up in the world out there, in the media or something. Absurd ideas, and then they'd show up, so that's kind of a Xenochrony. She said that happened around him a lot. Oh, Yellow Shark. You know how that, do you know the story is that some fan sent the Yellow Shark to him?
Yeah,
it's a little dumb.
It's from the liner notes of the album.
Right, so he gets this dummy artifact, he doesn't do anything, he just arrives, and then it's like, you gotta look at Frank as...
A couple of songs.
What?
Nothing, go on.
Yeah, you gotta look at Frank. He's sitting there, he's watching CNN, he's processing the world, he's in charge, he's gotta know what's going on, he's on duty, paying attention, sitting back, processing everything, and all of a sudden he's gotta do a gig, some musical thing, his musical self must perform. So he looks around the room and there's a fucking yellow shark, his buddy Bob, forget the fucking workers there. What do we call this project? He looks around, moves his head to 3 inches and sees a yellow shark. Call it Yellow Shark. He just sees the shark sitting there that some fan sent. You know what I mean? It begins like that. And then as he gets more and more specialized into doing it, then that's when he fine-tunes it. But he begins always sort of like an off-the-cuff situation.
Yeah, he's a good...
Yeah, what is that line? You begin with a few fucking basic ideas? What's that thing we quoted?
From DO5. This isn't the whole concept, but it's a few basic ideas to start with.
Yeah, that's all that Frank does. And then he gets everybody else to do the details.
Yep.
He had Scott Tunis training the 88 band.
Exactly, yeah. He was the...
He'd come in later in the day. He's too busy finishing up his book. The book was after. Yeah, okay. So he's getting ready to do Russia in the fall of... No, wait a minute. He's rehearsing in late 87. And he's busy trying to get the TV concept going, I think. He's got other media plans.
Out, you can't do that on stage anymore, albums as well.
Right. He's doing all that product, product excess coming out, excessive product. And he's getting ready to meet the election year. He always liked to tour in the election year, 84, 88. And he's got all these other projects, potential things happening. He's healthy. And so he only has time to show up to rehearsals later in the day or late at night or something.
But he rocks up at about 7, and the guys have been there since 9 in the morning.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that early, but they've been there a stretch.
Yep.
I think they might have started at 3 or 4 in the afternoon, something like that. And then he'd show up in the 8 o'clock or something.
It's those interviews with the ex-band members, the Fowler brothers and Ed Mann. They go into the rehearsal schedules and all that sort of stuff. Those ones on YouTube. You've seen them, Bob?
No, I don't think I've seen that. Send me a link to
Bobby
that.
Martin. Yeah, they're really good. The interview was pretty crap, but quite a bit gets talked about, so it's good insight. Yeah,
do you... okay, does he say 9 in the morning in there?
Oh, well, I remember some reference to one of the guys complaining about how they'd be there all day, and then, Scott Tunis would be, they were getting pissed off with Scott because he was, working them like slaves, and then Frank would just rock up and fine-tune everything and then change everything, and so they had to learn it all again the next day.
Yeah, that's amazing if they start that early. But let's go tell you something else. What else was there? Why are we talking about that? There's some other surrounding.
Jerry told me he used to hang out a lot of Zappa's Rehearsals. That would have been fun.
Yeah, here's what I wanted. Yeah. If they were recorded, they'd be pretty interesting, all the stuff that they just Zappa, hey, let's play Charles Mingus stuff or something. Whatever they fucking were doing during the day, they'd be hopping in different ideas. That would be him just, running through what he liked to do, and anything could have been done.
Yeah. Those
probably were pretty interesting, pretty funny, or pretty entertaining.
Well, we were talking about Frank's notion of beyond love or beyond the heart. And looking at the Friday night margarita nights they had, you can see, what his private life would have been like, just recording and messing around, and that was probably the stuff from his heart, that he.
Oh wait, now I get what you're saying. What's the margarita nights got to do with this?
Well, we're talking about Frank's notion of beyond love and all that sort of stuff, and how it's maybe.
They talked about. Okay, you're saying they talked about that in the salon?
No. That's just an expression of Frank expressing.
You're not being clear. We don't have a fucking idea what you're talking about. Start over again.
Okay.
What are you trying to? You bring up the margarita salon. What about it?
It's an impression of Frank at home, expressing his natural self, just enjoying just music.
Sitting around talking to people.
Yeah.
Okay, so he liked to talk to people.
Yeah. No, but the notion of what his concept of beyond love was.
How is that shown in the margarita salon?
Well, it's just an expression of what he'd be doing at home, just having fun, compared to producing albums and making cynical remarks and nipping satire on the audience. And there's only a very few songs where you can see Zappa from the heart playing, as far as I'm concerned.
That's ridiculous. I was just going to say, just before he said that, I mean, you guys never saw any Zappa concerts, so you never experienced the phenomenal. To me, it felt like a UFO had landed. It was so fucking out of it. It was so amazing. Nothing nobody compared to what a Zappa concert was. It was like a whole other fucking world. And in 88 or so, I was saying that to Jared, just getting to know him, and he was saying the same thing. He says, "Yeah, I mean, I forget." And then 4 years later, he's running around being part of the concert, and he says, "I can't believe what I'm hearing and how it's performed." That's the thing. Okay. He was enjoying it.
That is the thing about Frank, is that, I've collected damn near all of his albums except for probably new stuff that's been released posthumously recently. And, a lot of the songs throughout his collection of records are repeated on different albums, live or recorded in the studio, but it's never the same song twice. Never the same song twice. And that is amazing, actually, to me.
And they're always dynamite, and he never rehearsed his guitar playing. He would just get better at it during the tour.
Yeah.
So by the end of the tour, the bootlegs would be incredible.
Yeah. I mean, he'd perform a song that had a particular, a recognized song that you'd heard before, but every time he performed it, he performed a variation on it.
Yeah.
And it was new,
That's right. And, I mean, how the hell do you write and play that kind of fucking music? I mean, even
he had that principle of anything, anytime, anywhere, for no reason at all.
Yeah, but he also had the discipline and the trained puppets to do their stuff. Oh, this is something I want to say. I think it's great to have, in the end of the first hour in Cash Flow, a recurring motif. It's Bobby Martin going, "There ain't no such thing as dying." You've noticed that, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a play on an Allman Brothers song.
Yeah, Whipping Post.
Whipping Post.
And it gets fucked up. I mean, Bill, he's going to end the hour, and Bill's supposed to time it or somehow, maybe it's hard to hear it, but a lot of times we don't hear the whole clip. You just hear die, and then the end. But recently you heard a bit of it, but I would like that to be heard a longer stretch more, because it's just great. I mean, Bobby Martin, you don't get to hear Bob, warbling. The warbles for about 3 minutes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes into dying. So just a great theme, because...
Was that from the Best Little Band album?
Where's that? It's from Them or Us. No, I got it from a YouTube, but it was
it's
on
live,
Them or Us.
live performance, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a live. It's a live recording, but I don't know who taped it or why.
A double album, The Best Little Band. He does some. He does.
This is from a YouTube footage.
It's from Them or Us. The one that you play is from Them or Us. I used to have it.
Right.
Yeah.
But how come it's a YouTube?
Why not?
Because he included a lot of live stuff on his albums.
Oh, okay.
And that whipping post is on side 4 of a 4-sided album.
Okay,
and,
so he did it
definitely live.
In 84. I saw him in New York in 84, and he had the big screen up, so he was filming it. So he releases Them or Us in 85 or so, maybe. So yeah, the footage would have come from the 84 season, because that's what Them or Us was. It was stuff from, some of it was from 84, I think. It comes out in 85.
From November 81 to June 84.
Yeah. Well, the Pier was in August 84. So, I mean, that's where we, you see, in August 84, I see him at the Limelight Club, and that's when I tell him he has to listen to Mae Brussel. And then I go back to New York 2 weeks later, and he's playing at the Pier, and then I see him in Toronto around that time. Then I see him in Halifax in November 84, and that's where we meet, and Sue Bone got a picture of us. That's where we meet after his noon-hour dinner, and we talk about the Mae Brussel tapes. And then I go to his home in March 85. And then in September, he does the PMRC and calls up Mae and wants to get some information on everybody, and then he ends up giving her a computer to help her. She didn't want it, but it was a token gift for the whole sequence of what we'd done for a year. Like, I was a behind-the-scenes guy in that whole fucking PMRC. I didn't know it was going to lead to that. So he called up Mae to say, give me the dirt on all these guys whose wives are on the committee. And she did. So he walked in quite confident, with information about shit. Push comes to shove. So who's squeaking the door?
That's on my side.
Yeah, you or Angela?
No, it was Angela just came in, so the door squeaked.
Yeah, that's Angela coming through.
Yeah.
Yeah, so what else were we talking about? Are you guys tired?
No, I'm not tired. I just went into the other room for a minute and got some water.
Right.
So, I don't know, you were talking about all the people that died after you met them, and then we talked about...
Not
Zappa.
After I met them. I all knew them years before, but it came to a point where I had a dramatic interaction with them.
Okay.
An intense interaction. Ginsberg and Burroughs were separately in New York City.
Yeah.
That was in the 90s. And Leary, I had not met Leary before, but that was the middle of May, 93. Wild Palms was on that weekend, which was about an updated of a Leary character. And you can see that interview on the timeline. It was
the Leary, Tim Leary interview?
Yeah, with me and Nelson.
That's the one we were laughing about when I was in Maui. Remember? He freaked out during the interview.
Yeah. And ran into the other room.
You know what I think we ought to do sometime would be fun, but I mean, practically speaking, it's probably not going to happen, but we ought to go, the three of us, Chad and James and me and Bob, we ought to take a look at the timeline and just start going through it. There's some interesting stuff in there that could use some elaboration.
Yeah. Who's that? Who left?
That's I think Scott.
Yeah, Scott dropped. Yeah.
Scott was talking and he got knocked out. What? He suggested go through the timeline.
Yeah.
Did someone else go out?
Yeah, as soon as he talked about going through the timeline, one line at a time, it was like, boop, gone.
Yeah, and then I bring up the significance of that, and it kills James. This is Dave Worster's Bing Bing.
Okay, hold on a second. I got dropped off. Did you hear? Yeah. Did you hear my proposal?
No, we didn't notice. You haven't been on for 2 hours. Where you been?
I've been here.
Okay.
So you didn't hear my proposal before I just got chopped off just a couple.
Yeah, we did. It's a good idea.
Okay, so did it get any? So what happened? Did anybody get excited?
Well, it knocked James right offline.
Yeah, you got knocked out by you said it and got knocked out just because you said it, and then I repeated it and James fell out. So it was a standoff between me and Chad, and neither of us would mention it because we didn't know who would go.
Yeah, see, we're talking atom bombs here. We're talking a new Dobbstown project. That's dangerous.
Yeah, let's walk the timeline.
Yeah,
climb the Matterhorn.
Yeah, let's abort these babies forever.
Yeah, but it's interesting. See, what's really interesting is Carolyn got to observe all this through the years. She could write an incredible fucking story. Well, the chapter. Well, this is the chapter of the people.
Yeah, that's right. You met Carolyn in, what was it? Did you meet her like in Nazi Germany in 1940?
No, let me go read. I got to read it to you. It's good stuff. 1944 in Paris. I actually have the fucking, I was going to say library, the diaries here.
The Dewey Decimal Index.
Yeah. Hey, look at the very first line, April 22nd. Now, look what April 22nd becomes, a very important date, but this is 1935. The first thing is, James Joyce muttered to Eugene Jolas, crowds are all that's left. That's the first line.
James Joyce what? Mutters?
James Joyce muttered to Eugene Jolas, crowds are all that's left.
Okay.
And this is when humans had human reality had already dropped off. The individual reality had already dropped off because of the crowd of the radio. Right, and that's the individual Leopold Bloom becomes the collective nobody of Finnegan, or in the book HCE becomes Finnegan. That's the collectivization of man. And I heard him say that. It says, as Bob Dobbs...
what's his face up there in Canada should never have called himself Lenny Bloom. That was a mistake right from the start.
Yeah. Do you know what happened to Lenny Bloom in the movie Enemy of the State?
Yeah, that's right.
That's where he got the name from.
Oh.
At the beginning of the movie, there's a journalist who's running around panic because he's got the cassette tape, and he's trying to get somebody to take it or do something with it, and he's killed right at the beginning.
He gets smashed by an ambulance.
Yeah, and so Nelson put that character together with Leopold Bloom.
Yeah.
Okay, so what?
I wanted to play a song from the '88 tour. Fire and Chains. It's a guitar solo, improvised. Have you guys heard it?
What's it called?
I don't think so.
Fire and Chains.
You want to play it now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just give you my little Carol stuff before you do it. Because how long would that be?
About 3.5 minutes.
Okay. Are we gonna go through Lumpy Gravy? I mean, looks like we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this, right?
Yeah, I'd say so.
Did we get anywhere today?
Oh yeah, we got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah.
We got to the D.O. Fa. That was a great discovery.
That was a great discovery. Yeah.
So here it is, 1944, September 8th, LaRouche's birthday. I didn't know it back then. LaRouche would have been 22 years old. So was I. Paris. Renee, Bob, you're going to be meeting a very interesting character tomorrow. His name is Fritz Kramer. You just do what he says. Don't ask your type of questions. And don't do any lemon squeezing. This was announced 66 years ago.
You would have been, what, 20-something?
That was 22.
22.
Don't ask your type of questions. The next few months are going to be now this is coming into a key part of the war. It's really the beginning of the American victory, but you're going to have the weird situation at the Battle of the Bulge in December. So the next few months are going to be a little dangerous for you because we're going into the final turn. And then I say, Rene then turned his attention to the newspaper on his desk. But that only lasted a few seconds. He sighed, put the paper down, and began scanning the maps on his work table. So I say, Father, do you remember the young lady I told you I met at the club the other night? Well, I saw her coming out of the embassy today. She was with some of Galen's people, okay, the Nazi people. And my father says, you mean that Constance girl? You know, Connie was Constance. I go, yes, but she told me she prefers to be called Connie. Anyway, why would she be with those thugs? It's unfathomable. That's not the impression she gave me when I met her. Do you get my point? He goes, definitely. I'll look into this tomorrow. I know who will know. So I didn't know that Carolyn was from an aristocratic family, and this is during the Vichy, compromised government of France. And, she's forced to hang out with the Galen people because her parents were. So then 2 months later, November 28th, in Paris, Dobbs. It appears, okay, now I'm talking to Carolyn. It appears you knew about me before I met you in September. She says, my parents helped organize the Vichy government. Therefore, I was nurtured in the circles that monitored Parisians. And even though your father's networker was untouchable, we still watched you. The significance of you and me working on this mission together indicates something different is going to happen. I think they're preparing for a new world order that will be set up after this war is over, which is going to be soon. And where they're sending us today probably has some role in it. So I go, my family has been an observer of these Machiavellian maneuvers for over 200 years. We were on the sideline, as butlers. So she says, my family goes back further than that, and they weren't just observers. So then it says, Bob relaxed as much as he could as the Jeep headed out of Paris. And then there's a thought by me. I haven't been south of Paris in over a year, and I haven't met such an interesting young woman in a longer time. This is going to be fun. So then, you mind hearing the little next one?
Go ahead. No.
Yeah. The final entry of that 44 phase, December 19th, 44, Ardennes Forest in France. We're going to, this is where I bump into Kissinger. We're going to the Battle of Bulge and figure out what the fuck's happening with the Nazis that are giving themselves up or not giving themselves up. So we come to a kind of guard post, and the American soldier says, let me see your papers. Fritz Kramer handed the papers over to the guard at the gate. Bob and Connie sat beside Kramer in the front of the Jeep, shivering in the bitter cold. The soldier says, who won the World Series in 1940? Kramer says, I don't know. Connie goes, the Cincinnati Reds. It says, Bob was stunned and looked at Connie, then at Kramer. They were both very calm. And I'm thinking, how did she know that? Then the soldier says, what's the name of Betty Grable's third husband? Fritz Kramer goes, I don't know. Carolyn goes, Harry James. And the soldier says, you have a German accent. Talking about Kramer. I can't let you through. Kramer says, I left Germany in 1939. Soldier says, you don't seem to have any knowledge of American culture. Kramer says, I've been in the military since I arrived in America. I haven't had the time to enjoy its popular culture, and frankly, I have no interest in it. Why is this an important matter? Soldier says, because German soldiers wearing American uniforms murdered 86 American soldiers at Malmedy a few days ago. We're under strict orders to interrogate everybody, regardless of who they appear to be. Kramer says, make your decision then, but consider how she knew the answers, pointing at Carolyn. She's no German and wouldn't be caught dead with one. And then Connie says, I used to date Joe DiMaggio. And now, Carolyn's only 22. So the soldier says, overwhelmed by Connie's beaming face, okay, you can go through. So then the footnote says, Bob relaxed, but Kramer and Connie didn't express anything. And then I think to myself, I couldn't have answered those questions. I don't know anything about American so-called culture. How could Connie know about it? But come to think of it, Connie sounds like an Americanization of Constance. Strange. Damn, it's cold. And that's how it all began.
Wow, 200 years in the making, huh?
Right. Well, me and Carol don't hook up till 66. We know each other. We're involved with the Secret Council 10. And
yeah, I'm just saying your family heritage, it sounded like this was being all set up 200 years ago.
Well, Ion says back in the 1400s.
Kind of destined to happen.
Beg your pardon?
It was destiny.
Yeah. Well, we're getting more details on that lately in private readings. The fucking...
I just want to know if Connie was jealous of Marilyn Monroe, because I think Marilyn Monroe dated Joe DiMaggio.
That is later. That's in the 50s. I mean, I think Carolyn's older than Marilyn Monroe. I think she's born in 1925 or something. Let me check that. I mean, Carolyn was going over to the States, with her family as part of the secret network. Let's see, Wikipedia. She was born June 1st, 1926. So Carolyn's March 20th, 1922. Carolyn's 4 years older.
You see, I think you're even weirder than Ion in his parallel realities.
Yeah, JW's getting nothing on me. He's only 8 of him.
Yeah.
So, Bob, what was it like for you to change from being the intelligence person and secret society person to being like a high school person in Nova Scotia?
Well, I always looked young, and it was really easy. That's in 66, 67, which is discussed in the second Guffey interview, and nobody's really noticed that. Is that what you're referring to?
I don't know. I guess so. It's like a combination of different things I've read, but it's like, it seems, if one looks at your history, it's like you had this one life in Europe, and then when you came to North America, and then you just were working undercover as a high school student. No,
I wasn't in the high school. You misinterpret that.
Okay.
In 66, 67, things are starting to get weird because Rai's returning to essence. I didn't know it as that at that point. I don't get that till a couple years later when I meet Worcester. But in retrospect, you notice things are screwing up. The gold, the London gold thing gets fucked up in early '68. And if you listen to the new Hand Signal for the Blind, it's one of the rare times Worcester explains the change in power caused by Rai return to essence and then the apex of polarity. It's really beautiful. I forgot that I had broadcast it. It's very important. I mean, that
was around the time Bob Dobbs. That's around the time Bob Dean gets knocked off and Bob Dobbs takes over Bob Dean's body.
Yeah.
You're a walk-in, Bob.
Okay, I'm not a walk-in. I'm not a walk-in.
What happened in 66?
Okay, 667. I can go read the diary. Read the. It's the second memo to Prince Charles in my book. Let me see. Okay, here's the deal. We're so in charge, I can afford to let this stuff out now. Connie and I killed Bob Dean and Carolyn Wheeler. Literally killed them.
You heard it here first.
No human being has ever been sent before on the planet Earth.
It took 3 guys to interview the devil.
My God.
The world's greatest sinner, Bob Dobbs. So let me see if I can find, where is it on 5 Bodied, the second memo. I do have the book on there. So is that in Essay Archives? Or is it under Bob's Ecology of the album? It's sort of in the wrong place. I'm just scanning through, because I'll read you what I wrote. Do you guys have Fatty Communion?
I have it.
No.
Yeah, I don't want you to read those. So okay, so I go over to Audio Archives, click on, look for Bob's Ecology, 1992. I think it's, the transcript of that is there.
Wait a minute, you're not talking about Fatty Communion, you're talking about your diary, right?
No, it's Fatty Communion has the second memo of Prince Charles. And it's on 5 Bodied somewhere. Just trying to find where it is.
Because I have Fatty Communion here. What part of Fatty Communion is it in?
At the very back.
Oh, at the very end, okay.
Yeah, page 124 or so.
Yeah.
Okay, let me find. You can follow along once I find it. Now where? Okay, so maybe
it's under Bob. It's under Archives, Audio, Catalog, Bob Documents, Essays.
Bob Documents. Oh, well, there's under what? Bob's Audio Archives? That one?
Yeah, you're in Archives, Audio / Catalog directory.
Okay, not that. No. I'm looking at 5 Bodied.
Yeah, 5body.com /archives /audio /catalog.
Okay, that's the file folder. I'm looking at where it is on 5 Bodied, and I thought it was with Bob's Ecology in Audio Archives. But I don't think it is. I might have to do what you're doing, but I'm going to try to find. I know it's okay. Must be an Essay Archive.
I just sent you the link.
Okay, but I don't want to find it here first. If I give up, then I can use your thing. I've got the first. See, I've got Fatty Communion with Bob Dobbs. Is that it? There it is. The book. Yeah, okay, so it's under Essay Archives. Go down to Fatty Communion, the book. Well, it has the Dobbs part of the book. So here's how it goes. Okay, so you guys are both looking at it, right? June 4th, 1990?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, if you notice, the 2 memos are always dated June 4th. That's my father's birthday. Okay? So, as I sit here dictating this memo to you and watching Connie dancing with herself, hugging the letter in her arms, and this is June 4th, 1990, you might hear the tears running down my face. That's supposed to be cute. You know, you're supposed to hear the tears. And in the background is the song, You're Still the One. Pardon me, but I can't believe how we got here. 22,000 miles above the earth, and I'm drifting back. They just mentioned Zareski again on the radio. That's Michael Zareski, a guy in Dartmouth that got busted. He was part of the Nova Scotia legislature, and he got accused of some stuff and framed. They just mentioned Zareski again on the radio. Back to Dartmouth, Nova Scotia in the summer of 1966, when we watched little Bobby Dean and tiny Carolyn Wheeler go on their separate little adventures, never to be seen again. Did I hear a click? You guys still there?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, they would be, quote, seen again, but everyone knew they weren't the same. That fall, their last year in high school, Bobby was famous for having hitchhiked to California and back again with only $5 given to him by some kind of Taco Bell franchiser who had driven him for about 1,000 miles. Carolyn had spent the summer in Sherbrooke, Quebec, where she checked out the transformative powers of French kissing. It worked. She was very popular that first Dartine, that's Dartmouth teen, Dartine dance in September. That hadn't happened before. She was different. Indeed, they both were. These facts served just perfectly as covers for what had really happened. The truth of the matter was that they were victims of walk-ins, namely me and Connie. Now, that's the cover story, right? Walk-ins. They were fucking murdered, and the story was that Bob went off to California, and Carolyn went off to Sherbrooke, so that explained their absence in the summer. But who showed up at school was me and Carolyn. When they supposedly came back, it was us. And we look like them. That's the whole
first time you told me this story back at Jerry's house a decade or so ago, and I listened with rapt attention, and Carolyn said to me, "Scott, do you really believe this?" she was greatly concerned over my mental health, I think.
No, there's very subtle, MK Ultra shit going on there. She knew if she planted that you wouldn't believe this real. It's not what she wanted you to believe. You see, that's the final Armageddon, is when Bob and Connie go at each other. Like in Pritchie's Honor. Ever see that movie?
Yeah.
When Catherine, whatever her name was, the 80s star, what was her name?
Zeta Jones?
Kathleen, no, that's before.
Oh.
Turner. Yeah, she and Jack Nicholson are mafia people, right? And they end up having to killing each other, even though I think they're married or something. So it's always been a joke at Club 22. It's not wait till Bob gets here. Wait till Bob and Carol finally have to fucking have it out. So she's always programming to protect her ass, and I'm always programming to fuck her ass. Set her up.
Here's Bob number 4.
Yeah. So not to sexually fuck her, but set her up, because remember, she's an aristocrat and I'm not. There's always been that little tension. Her background, there it is back in September 8th. Hey, Dad, she's fucking with the Nazis, for fuck's sake. So I said, these facts serve just perfectly as covers that they had gone to Quebec and California for what had really happened. The truth of the matter was that they were victims of walk-ins, namely me and Connie. Now, that's a lie. Remember, this is a memo to Prince Charles. I have the right to lie to him a bit, right? He's a competitor. What a year that was for us. There we were, both 44 years old and veterans of Mata Hari, James Bond scenarios since World War II, pretending we were teenagers in the little town on the eastern rim of the North American plate. But as usual, such was our luck that it was the best time to be a teen, or rather to pretend to be youth. Actually, everyone in the world was trying to act young and wild. However, for us, it was an assignment, and the stakes were very high. But Charles, right now I'm addressing Charles. But Charles, right now, as Connie and I float in the arms of victory, it's 1990. The cold fusion thing has happened. This is moving into the victory phase, at least Ion, 19 years later. But Charles, right now, as Connie and I float in the arms of victory, I see those faces drip by, and I wonder what the citizens of Dartmouth will think when these memos are published. Of course, the majority will hardly even remember who Bobby Dean and Carolyn Wheeler were, except for a couple of vague rumors. In 22 years from now, that would be 2012. Forgot about that. In 22 years from now, they will be the ones who will build the tourist monuments, the Dartmouth people. Still, so I've got fucking 2 years to make an impact for those monuments to be built. Well, I think we're doing it. I think we're right on schedule. 22 years from now, they will be the ones who will build the tourist monuments. Bob and Carolyn lived here 50 years before. Still, those who knew and shared our local schemes will now have many questions answered. Perhaps they will feel it was all not in vain and even a little significant. Take Steve, for example. Now, look at this. I've got Steve, and you know who he is?
Yeah.
He's the original fucking legend, the pre-legend, the complainer about Ion.
Steve Victor Angle.
Yeah. He's very funny, great writer. Take Steve, for example. He suddenly found Bobby sitting next to him in A5, a grade 12 division in Dartmouth High School, a not very academically inclined class. Steve was in there because he was too smart to study. After Bobby had been streamed through the advanced class with Mike and Karen and Phil and Don and Christine, now a politician with a minister's portfolio sometimes. Christine got in trouble, Christine Hart. And her father, for the record, her father was the one who brought me and JW together. Have you ever heard that story? So I'm talking about Mike Kroger, Karen Constable, Phil McKay, Don Bosley, and Christine Hart. And I have in brackets, now a politician with a minister's portfolio sometimes. She was Minister of Communications in the Ontario government, Liberal government, in 1990. There was scandal hit her a few months later. And Peter, now that's Peter Watt, the fucking nerd genius. And I was just talking to someone, Marg, the other day, and she thinks that Peter was, what's that thing? Autistic. Peter was rumored to be a doctor in Annapolis Valley. That turned out to be wrong. And Terry, later murdered in the 80s. So I'm saying Bobby Dean had been streamed through the advanced class with these people for 5 years. By shrewdly dropping chemistry, biology, German, and picking up social problems, I arranged for Bobby to be put in Steve's class, so he would have a very light homework load, giving me much free time for a real assignment. Phil and Don would later refer to this period as the time when Bobby died. They used to talk about that. They just noticed Bob changed. They didn't know it was a fucking different person. Which is pretty fucking amazing to pull that off. I can't tell you how that was done. But Steve can now understand. Now I'm saying in 1990, Steve can now understand why Bobby suddenly became obsessed with his Freakout album by the Mothers of Invention. Bobby was going to be a physicist, couldn't even hear music, and back in 65 wanted to form a band with Steve and Alan Billard and called it the Valets. The Valets? Steve was outraged. Understandable, because Steve was studying guitar by listening to Paul Butterfield records. But Bobby was a good dancer. He had learned from his childhood buddy, Butch Lucas, who just came here on September 22nd. I hooked up with Butch Lucas, and he's in a 1969 diary entry. He had learned from his childhood buddy, Butch Lucas, and was often mistaken for a colored person. Bobby Dean was mistaken for a colored person at the Bannock Canoe Club dances. But suddenly Bobby couldn't stop requesting to hear Frank Zappa's music whenever he was at Steve's house. See, that was me. Just back with being in L.A. when Zappa was recording Freako. So anyways, that's the mystery part. And Guffey said in some context, he said, there's a part in that interview, the second interview with Bob, that no one's asked about, and it's always, it's the key. So then you have to look at what I say about that period in that interview.
Is that the Paranoid magazine one?
Yeah. Do you know what I say?
You told me about it the other day. I'm yet to look it up, so I'll find out.
I don't know if I told you the other day about it. Hey, I just got an email from you, James.
Yeah, I've seen the link to your directory.
Yeah. Okay, so we go to... since nobody gives a fuck and nobody will ever fucking notice, let's go to Paranoid Magazine. I'll read it into the record, for fuck's sake.
Hey, wait a minute, Bob. I think that's the thing that you had me post on Dupes. There's 8 points at the end of the article.
Yeah, no, there's that, but it's the what's said in the interview about what I just read you. Because I think Guffey noticed. He said, what about that? What the fuck's going on there? Are you a walk-in? You know, something like that. So I look up the articles, scan down. Okay, The Death of the Matrix, a dialogue with Bob Dobbs. So you go like this, write that in. Okay. Just a second. all so quiet. You guys there?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm here. I'm just reading something.
Of that Death in the Matrix part or something?
Yeah, Bob's levels of 8. Isn't that what you're talking about?
No. I'm going to go into something before in the text of the interview. Okay, here it is. It's sort of just down a bit, sort of the beginning. So he's saying, well, I was going to ask you about that. Okay, I talk about, it turns out the whole thing was a prelude to the final scene, and therefore Trinity and Neo and the whole bunch of them are a bunch of code, symbolic code of Bob's life and the light out. That's what you're looking at, the levels. For more information on these levels, see the appendix at the end of this interview. Acting out their tensions from the second part into the third movie. And then it resolves that it was all inside the head of Bob and Connie, or in the world where they're the first to appear. And everything has led up to that, right? That's what I'm saying to him. Guffey says, well, I was going to ask you about that. At the end, we see the sun rising over a city. Is that in the Matrix, or is that in the real world? Or is that the real world? I say, what you have sitting there is Bob, a black woman. In brackets, Dobbs often claims he's really a black woman. Guffey goes, right. And then I say, and Connie. What is Connie? The little girl, the little Indian girl. See, Carolyn Wheeler lived on Indian Road in Dartmouth. So you have Bob, who's a black woman. Do you remember the end of the third Matrix, when they're in Zion, the new world? And there's a black woman and a little Indian girl. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm the black woman and Carolyn's the little Indian girl. And this is an example of language doing it beyond what the Wachowski brothers know. And what was the example? Yeah, Zappa doing ionization. You know, from the God's eye view, there's this little kid running around with the word ionization for years. And he doesn't know that it's going to lead to ion in the world of mortar. Ion is in the world of mortar, right? So this is the history of the world.
What's your distinction there between mortar and stone, Bob? I mean, I kind of know what you mean, but what I need some definition on that.
Mortar is culture.
Yeah.
Culture and technology. The stone is your private ability to create your own reality through talking with your mumbling, whatever you mumble and require.
Okay.
And you mumble because you listen to the angel recording. You'll know why that is, how to talk to angels. So the little girl, and then Guffey says, who Neo talks to in the subway. That's at the beginning movie. See, the third movie begins with Neo stranded in the subway. That's me doing subway in New York City in the middle of last decade. And then the little Indian girl encounters him. That's the beginning of the movie. So I say the little Indian girl, and Guffey says, yeah, who Neo talks to in the subway. I go, yeah, who comes to him in the subway and is kind of immune to the Matrix problems. She's in the Matrix, but kind of an interval position. That's Connie, and that's Slack, beyond the whole thing, right? So he goes through a fake Connie, Trinity, an earlier version of Connie, and then he dies. And it turns out that he and Trinity were just inside Bob, which is the black woman who had become Mr. Smith in the procedure, resolving the whole thing, right? Just like Dale Cooper becomes Bob in Twin Peaks. Now, what happened is that he was supposed to write an article on all this, and he never could get around to writing it, so he taped me on New Year's Eve saying all this stuff. This is just said over the phone, and I didn't even know that he was taping it, but he just used that to finish his commitments. So then he says the theme of possession is similar in both stories, yeah? I go, yeah, Bob the walk-in, or in this case, Connie's the walk-in into Mr. Smith that will swallow him, and she begins to fight Neo. But she creates the whole thing. But she is Bob, and Bob is doing it with Connie, and Connie is the little kid, the little Rumpelstiltskin, who's creating from the hexatic position new matter. There's the prediction of ion, and what we're doing with living water, right there. Who is Carolyn, the little Indian girl, is creating from the hexatic position new matter, new APs, anthropomorphic physicals, new realities, new beings, Akasha, and that's symbolized by her creating the sky. What do you think of that, Jed?
That's Guffey wrote that?
Yeah.
No, that's me talking in the phone in 2003, New Year's Eve, and he's taping it.
Yeah, and he transcribes it.
Yeah, and I don't think I knew he was taping it. But
yeah, but that's great, but you can even go back earlier to your essays, like the first essays I would have ever read on the internet from you.
Yeah.
Like Up the Orphic Annie and Silencing the Virtually Solar Theater. And you're saying things like that back then even.
That's right. I'm talking about changing the DNA.
Yeah, DNA squared, like something beyond DNA and a new civilization. It's all been there since day one.
Yeah, so you could say that, Ion's an extension of me in that level.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew we had to come up with something to pull it off.
Yeah.
We came up with Ion. And
who's we? Who are you referring to as we?
Me and Carolyn.
Oh yeah.
I say right in there, if you follow us and take the D cell, you will reappear and be eternal, be physically immortal, like we have become. That's the whole thing. I'm talking about being in the physical. Do you know anybody who actually said that, Chad? Nobody else fucking was saying that, right?
Yeah, as far as I've surveyed, nobody said that. About creating a whole new matter and everything? No way. Nobody talks like that. And they're using like cliched occult terms or
they're talking about becoming transcendent and the divine nirvana. They're not saying we stay in the physical. Uh-oh. Here comes Angela. We'll never get finished if she comes. What's she doing? She's listening to us or doing something else?
Demolition. It's okay, carry on.
Okay, so Guffey says she's the one who created the sun, and she says she does it for Neo. I go, that's right, her boss, or for the Oracle, or for the whole pattern that's happened. It's in honor of what Bob did, preparing the ground for her to be what she is. See, I prepared the ground for Carolyn. And so who walks up and sort of says, well, you won that one. And Guffey says, the architect. And I go, and who's the architect? He's the android meme, which is all media under Rai, in brackets, an ancient spirit, according to Dobbs, responsible for creating the universe. Under male domination, creating all this historical media, and now he's assumed AP form. He's a man, he's a white man, and there he is saying, well, Bob, you beat me. You kind of beat me, and maybe we'll have another match. Now, I say Ion is the anti-environment to the android meme. Ion beats the android meme. You kind of beat me, and maybe we'll have another match.
Well, Bob, right? You were an anti-environment to the android meme before Ion came along.
Yeah, but I think the meaning of the chart is I don't necessarily get us to the new level, and that's where I do claim I got Connie to the next level, but we didn't know how it was going to happen. So yeah, I was an anti-environment in terms I was setting the groundwork, the architect alchemy for the actual anti-environment. But then if
you're suggesting then that you are not God, but Ion is.
No, I'm suggesting that Ion and Carolyn are bigger than God. We're not limited to being just God.
No, but you're deferring. You're saying Ion is you used to refer to yourself. You implied that Bob was the second coming. Now you're saying it's Ion.
No,
you're deferring. You're giving some of your power away to Ion.
No. Listen to this sentence. Here's the point. I've told you many times. As people get more familiar with this whole thing, like James is, you begin to think that Ion's an extension of me. So we're not sure what this Ion is in relation to me yet. So might be he's God, but I don't think so.
No,
I'm not saying I'm God, but the point is there's an interesting. It's a trialectic. It's between JWB and Carolyn.
Yeah.
So whatever's going on, and that's the first words that Ion said. This is all about.
Yeah, no, it just now, for a moment there, I thought you were passing the baton. On to Ion.
No, I'm just. It's proportional. Every now and then you let him sit in front, and then you have to put him in the back seat. You move it around.
Yeah.
He's a white man, and there he is saying, "Well, Bob, you beat me. You kind of beat me. Maybe we'll have another match." And I go, "Right." No, I'm saying right to Guffey. I go, right. Now, there's the simple explanation of what it is. It's obvious. And then he says, but at the end, is Zion still existing? Now, Ion says that Ion is the Zion. Ion is right in Zion. That's how the movie ends. Did you know that, Chad?
Sorry, I didn't hear the last couple seconds.
The word Zion refers to Ion.
Yeah, that was kind of mentioned in my third reading.
Yeah. So isn't that amazing? We're talking about, the Matrix ends with Zion, which is fucking Ion. It's a fucking literal. We're in that new world at the end with the Black Oracle and the little girl representing me and Carolyn, and we're in Zion, which is in the lapse of Ion, so to speak, or non-physical.
Isn't there a group, a hardcore radical group in Israel that calls themselves Zionist?
Yeah.
Zionists. Yeah, it's a Zionist. It's a political force. Okay. So then Guffey says, but at the end, is Zion still existing in the real world, or is? And I go, yes and no. You see, human bodies are first nature. The human bodies make second nature, which is median language. Human bodies are first nature. That's pretty. I don't know if I had it as clear as Ion says it, but that's. Human bodies made first nature, our first nature. Nah, I don't know if I'm saying that human bodies create nature there, but I'm saying human bodies create second nature, which is median language. There's a subtle interplay between the bodies and the media. The bodies as souls come and go, but the media keeps building itself through time. Oh yeah, this is a pretty interesting point. This is the evolution of Mortar. The bodies as souls come and go, but the media keeps building itself through time. So we come to the point where the media builds itself, completes itself, and it's merging with the bodies. And the best way to express that is to show the bodies, show the android meme dominating them, which is just simple language dominating humans in this dimension. Then the language resolves itself through the android meme, and Zion is saved. First nature is saved. And we've moved into the fused first and second nature situation. And therefore you can't tell the difference between first nature and second nature. That's what Ion's saying. We created nature. So the making part of us, which I call second nature, becomes fused with first nature. So I'll read one more line. At the end, they had an interesting effect when you first see the new city. You see a little digital cat that kind of becomes real. I say, is that when Bob and Connie are sitting there in the park? He goes, it's right before that. It's when the little girl wakes up on the street and you see this cat that looks digital, animated. Then suddenly it sort of becomes real and walks up to the little girl and she wakes up. Then I say, you can't tell the difference between them. You can't tell whether it's an unreal or real cat. That would be first and second nature merged. So we go back to the little bit about Dartmouth. That's the part, I think, that Guffey's saying. And now, wait a minute. That said, I didn't say enough there. We did the high school thing, right?
High school? Yeah, a little bit, I think.
But I don't we didn't complete it. Now wait, it's later. So who blinked out?
Well, I'm here. Chad, is it you or James?
Chad.
Chad's on?
No, Chad dropped out.
Chad dropped out. Okay, well, he'll be back.
So I'm going back up to where... Are you following this, James?
Yeah, sure am.
Where did I first talk about Bobby Dean? I read that, didn't I?
I brought it up when I watched the Tom Brennan Studio 13 stuff, and you said you had a...
No, I'm not. I'm talking about right now. But anyway, I talk about this in the Brennan thing?
Yeah.
Look, what do I say?
You said during 1966, you can't remember what happened. Some implant of Robert Dean was put in you, and you're not too sure what the hell it is.
Well, I didn't know I say it there. I thought this was the only place. The Guffey interview, which I haven't come to that part, but I thought that was the only time I said it. I actually do it in there.
Yeah.
Well, that shows me being consistent. I'm not just saying it in one place. What? I can't find I thought I just read about being in high school.
That was in the memo, was it?
Oh, yeah. Okay, that was the memo. Okay. So here's the part. So maybe he's not coming back. What do you think? Did you guys die?
No,
I'm
we're
here. Yeah, I don't know. Chad must be dealing with Angela or something because he's due to be bringing back in.
Okay, if I can start, I'll do it now. So where you jump ahead, and Guffey says, would it be appropriate to say that cold fusion is a kind of modern alchemy? Then I say, well, alchemy is changing something into a better situation. That's definitely what cold fusion does. It moves us out of the software tyranny of the end to our own means. It moves us out of the software tyranny of the end to our own means. I don't even know what that means. I don't know if it's accurately transcribed. So he goes, right, so Connie is kind of an alchemist in a way. I go, yeah, she represents the exploitation of the new alchemy, of the new potential once we have cold fusion. She didn't create cold fusion, she's just the first to take advantage of it. Does she herself, Guffey says, does she see herself that way? Oh, yeah. Okay, so she's aware of that level. Yeah, well, she wouldn't have been able to get away with what she did all these years if she wasn't in a state of grace or magic. Did Connie, was she actually a walk-in? Yeah, remember, we took over Bob and Carolyn. Carolyn Wheeler was in Halifax. And he goes, right, I'm remembering that in the memo to Prince Charles, published in the book That Communion with Bob Dobbs. Yeah, and then I told, in an interview later, I said, so I must be remembering the Brennan thing here. Yeah. Then I told, in an interview later, I said, I don't remember what happened then. But that was just a weird time where we were running around Dartmouth and appearing to be young and high school people, and people thought we were these two other people, and they disappeared, and we're there. Then we disappeared. Then we're Bob and Connie, and then it just gets all crazy. When I go, then we're Bob and Connie, that's when we're in Dartmouth in the late 60s, early 70s, and you got a lot of diary entries. It's like we disappeared and went to Montreal. Then we came back, and you got all that diary entries with Alan and the kids I started organizing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Then we're Bob and Connie, and then it just gets all crazy. So the body you were born in 1922 is not your body now? I don't know. It's such a mystery. Something weird happened in the late 60s, but I think that's because we had a singularity with Rai turned to essence, i.e. disappeared from this plane of existence, and we don't know what the fuck happened. Know what I mean? I'm like talking about an anomaly there. Ionic anomaly. He goes, right, so it's possible that your original bodies they disappeared in the 60s. Right. It's like a Dorian Gray thing. What happens in the end? His portrait is young, and he goes and sees it, but then it ages right in front of him or something. Guffey says, right, and he dissolves into nothing. I say, yeah, so something happened in the late 60s. When Rai returned to essence, that's when Connie was doing her solar government espionage in a place on Indian Row, which little Carolyn Wheeler apparently lived in. I don't know what happened then. I mean, something happened. We took over these kids, or we didn't take them over, or people thought we took them over because they couldn't believe we were 44 years old, which is what we were in 66. I don't know what, some weird extra perceptual happening. And I imagine that did happen because Rai returned to essence really affected human evolution. And Guffey says, and do these guys, these people in the Secret Council 10, your former colleagues, do they ever see movies like The Matrix and call you to talk to you about it? No, they don't talk about it. I think they're too lost. See, they're a phase behind me. They're lost in a normal Android meme nightmare like I was in 1977 and 1990. Prince Charles, he's in a nightmare. Guffey. So he doesn't like to see The Matrix and think of you or anybody else he used to. No, I don't think. I don't know what they think. They just ignore me, because they're lost. I mean, Connie and I walked around past all that, and so it's like they're still acting out phase 3 and 4 of Neo going through and having his battles. They're doing Neo battles. You know what I mean? And Guffey says, yeah, they're all trapped as meaty figures, whereas you're not. And I go, yeah. Guffey says, are all the Secret Council 10 members, are they all famous people we would all know? I go, no, there was 4. No, there was 40 people and then 4 people that were in the media that represented the 4 factions. So he goes, so fucking Chad, you missed it.
What did I miss?
The whole description of the point about what happened in 66.
Well, good thing we're recording it.
Yeah, so I don't think I should bore everybody and reread it, right?
No, so, I'll listen to it. Yeah,
so let's end within a minute or so, then you'll know this is the last 5 minutes.
Okay.
So, we got to do part 2 and prove Zappa is ionic.
Yeah. Well, we've set it up.
This last bit that I just read, Chad, it's fucking a colossal anomaly.
Okay.
So, is that what did happen then, Bob?
Yeah, Bob just wrapped up the keys to ascension. He totally plummeted the depths. He revealed all the secrets. He unleashed the revelations. Everything happened. What happened, Chad? You were gone the whole time.
I guess Chad can only take it on recording. He can't hear it directly. It has to be done through a media.
No, I hit the mute button to come off mute, and it shut down the phone call. So.
Right, and so then, what takes you so long to get back?
It wouldn't let me reconnect.
Right.
I left the room and came back in.
You relaxed and allowed, and then it let you in.
Yeah.
So. What was I just saying? Something about this anomaly. You asked me what's happening. That's Ian won't tell me.
Oh, okay.
He won't tell me yet. So we actually come full circle to that. He will not go into this shit. Now Carolyn found out some really incredible stuff about herself when we first started back in May last year. And she ain't talking about that.
God damn. Every time we start getting close to the crux of the biscuit, Bob, you say, no, I can't talk about that. That's top secret. And now you're telling us that every time you get close to it with Ion, he tells you, no, I can't talk about that. It's top secret.
Yeah, Ion told me it was top secret.
Yeah. It reminds me of this story where somebody asked... their physics professor, they were freshmen, and they said, I heard of this story that the world is held up by a tortoise shell, and then that world is held up by a tortoise shell. How does that all work? And the physics professor said, well, it's tortoises all the way down.
Is that a joke ending?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's getting late.
It's tortoises all the way down. So,
yeah.
Is that funny, guys? Is that that's a
sorry. It was a joke only meant for me.
Yeah, because it's not a joke. That's actually the way it is, Scott. It is all tortoises all the way down. Yeah.
No, it's secrets. It's secrets all the way. It's can't talk about it top secret all the way down.
Yeah, but that's also you never get it done. You can keep walking towards the horizon, but it's always going to be further away. It's always going to be distant.
I think that they're negotiating the Rye, Eloy, 2, and Lofty about. They're trying to figure out what happened. I mean, they're going, wait a minute, non-physical can now create. I mean, that violates trillions of years of policy. What the fuck's going on?
Trillions of years in a world in which time does not exist.
Yeah, so I go back and read that part, once every couple of years, and I think about it. It's like a spiral. Think about it. I'm actually thinking now, it's showing that fucking when Rye returned to essence, it was anomaly, squared, cubed, and quark-tuned, and that's why Worcester's still alive.
Yeah, and then you dub yourself Rai on the Dupes website.
Well, that's what I said to Worcester in August 2008, been here for 2 months. There sitting on my table is a copy of Paranoia with an article in the back with the word Rai in it that had never been seen the light of day, right? There's the interview with Worcester. And this is when, starting to move into August 2008, when we have the meeting on August 26th, which James was going to make a T-shirt. That was the beginning of the breakthrough on August 26th. Remember, I used to tell you about that, Scott?
Yeah.
August 26, 2008. And then a month or 2 later, JW started thinking he had to write a book. All these ideas are coming through his head. And that, in retrospect, was when he was starting to have Ion speak to him, and he didn't know what it was. He thought he had just had all these ideas and he had to write a book. So we were trying to figure out how to find someone to transcribe it or dictate it. But anyway, so it starts in August 2008. And I'm in Hawaii where Doobie died, in Hawaii. And I'm looking at, what's that? 42, Answer to the Universe, 41, but we're beginning to go into the 42nd year. 42 years later, I'm looking at a magazine article with Rai, and Awareness said that I'd be a PR person for the Servants of Awareness, and Wurster and I are talking about it, and I said to Wurster, I said, you know what? In a way, I created an artificial Rai action once I went on the radio. I entered the mortar world. So I created this, I replayed for the Android meme the Rai thing, redid Ralph Doobie. Now I'm sitting here where he was, and I've created a cult sort of thing, but it's a fake cult or a stupid cult or whatever, and we're looking at this and I'm talking to you. And I said, it's pretty neat, the poetry of it, so maybe I'll set up a Rai cult here. Maybe this is what this whole thing is here.
The after image of a room full of mirrors.